Should you buy the Minolta Autocord? Of course you should. It's a rhetorical question. But why you should buy it is a more nuanced question that we'll aim to answer today on Micro Adventures. I'm Laszlo Vasco, and on my channel we've been tracing the history of cameras for the past 130 years, starting with the 1890s. We've been looking at each decade. If you haven't seen some of my previous videos, please go back and take a look at those. And we've been shooting the 1950s. And today we're featuring the Minolta Autocord, a very popular, high precision, high quality camera. And the reason why it was very popular was that it offered the quality, more or less, or you can argue that it offered the quality of Rolleiflex at a lower cost. So they were popular back in the day, and they're still very popular today. So certainly it is a great camera to choose if you're looking to shoot with twin lens reflex cameras. And why you should shoot with twin lens reflex cameras, what's the reason people choose these cameras over the past number of decades, is that they're fairly compact, light. They're great to shoot with. They offered a great way of composing, similar to the single lens reflex cameras like the Hasselblads, but at a lot lower basically cost and smaller compact size and weight. So if you don't have one yet in your collection, or you haven't tried the twin lens reflex camera, highly recommend it. So they're fun cameras, and they're great cameras to take high quality photos. Let's get looking into the Autocord in more detail and the reason for selecting it. As you can see, and if you've seen my 1930s video when I introduced twin lens reflex cameras, and actually let me just grab it right here because I do have the Rolleiflex right here, and you can see that the Autocord, along with dozens of other cameras, basically copied the Rolleiflex design. It has a focusing lens plate, moving both the focusing and taking lens simultaneously in and out of the body. The only main difference being that on the Rolleiflex you focused with a knob on the left side, and on the Autocord you focused with a lever that you swung left to right, moving again the plate in and out. But otherwise, they look very similar. And so Minolta started medium format cameras in the 1930s as well, with the Minolta Flex series, but those were more consumer level. And in the 1950s they decided to aim for the premium market, basically challenging Rolleiflex at their own game and coming out with a camera that would equal Rolleiflex in quality for a lower price. And hence the Autocord series, introduced in the mid-50s. They were manufactured until the mid-60s. They came in various versions. The Rokkor 4-element Tessar lens was a 75mm f3.5 lens. That was common on all of them. Some of them featured light meters, like this one. It's a selenium meter on this one. You pop up and you read the reading off with the light sensor being right up here. Or there was a version, the CDS version, which had a CDS meter, battery operated right up here, which is quite well loved, especially because of its sort of, I guess, dorky design. Similar to the Rolleiflex, these featured a single winding lever that wound the film and cocked the shutter automatically. Of course, by now there is no, it's an automatic winding mechanism with no red window on the back. The unique feature of this particular one with the light meter was, and the earlier versions as well, was the fact that they used the light values, the LV values that were introduced, I think, in the 50s to simplify photography. So when you set your ISO for the light meter over here, you then read off open this up, read off the value. I'm reading 11 for the light value at the moment. And then your shutter speed was on the right. F-stops were on the left, which you adjusted with these two levels. And you can see your f-stop directly up on top, and very similar to Rolleiflex. So up on top in the window, you would read off your f-stop. But the levers on around the lens itself point to a set of numbers. And what you would do is, these are basically half LV values, so you would add them up and match it to the value you just read off. So for 11, what I could do is set this to 6 and set this to 5, which actually equals 1/25 f8, and proceed to take your picture. So at the time, it was advertised that even your wife and your kids can shoot with this. They don't have to know anything about f-stops and shutter speeds. They just need to add up the two integers and add to this. Now, obviously, that is kind of silly. Yes, you could also make some silly combinations where you have a very small shutter or lens opening, and then a very slow shutter speed, which would result in blurry images. So it's not so straightforward. You do have to know what apertures and shutter speeds mean, of course. But that's the way the 50s went with in terms of the light values, and Minolta Autocord also featured them. But of course today, regardless if you're using this or using another light meter, what's nice on this is that you see, of course, your real f-stop and shutter speed is straightforward and visible for you. Otherwise, there's really not much to it. Indeed, the focusing mechanism is a lot easier to ergonomic to work with than the Rolleiflex, because you're able to hold the camera with your left hand, advance, set your shutter, adjust your lens settings and shutter settings, and then simply with the same hand that you're holding the camera, be able to focus. So you didn't have to move your hand around, whereas on the Rolleiflex you would advance the film. Now you have to switch, hold it with your right hand, advanced focus with the left with the knob. Once that is set, you kind of switch back to be able to actuate the shutter on the right. So a lot more ergonomic on the Autocord. One of the reasons it was well liked. The other being is that it featured a very bright viewfinder with a great focusing screen, makes focusing a snap. It's the brightest viewfinder pretty much I found on a twin lens reflex camera, to be honest. I did have the Yashica Mat 124G back in high school. That's a very popular camera as well, and for students, and now of course it's also well liked. That one featured a CDS meter built right in. That was the 124G, but it was a much more utilitarian feeling camera, whereas the Minolta Autocord feels like a nice precision camera. So if you collect Minolta cameras, it's an obvious choice. If you do not collect Minolta cameras, but you're looking for a Japanese twin lens reflex camera to add to your collection, then this is probably the most obvious choice as well, given their reputation for quality, reliability, and the quality of the images that you will get from them. There could be other ways you could go, of course, especially if you wanted, let's say, a faster lens. I do find the 75mm on these to be a great focal length. Some of their manufacturers featured 80mm or 85mm, a little bit of a tighter composition. I do find the 75 to work quite well. So, Minolta Autocord, I recommend you getting one. And I also recommend for you to subscribe to this channel and follow along as we shoot with the other cameras of the 50s. In the meantime, let's take a look at the images that we've got from these. I found this to be, the lens to be very sharp. Corner to corner, as you can see. It has great micro contrast as well. it has that, obviously, that fantastic medium format feel to it. And yeah, so, and if we compare it very quickly to the other ones, so especially if you haven't seen my previous videos, these were some of the ones that I've reviewed. So we jump back to, this is the boot that keeps on giving, meaning the trunk. In the UK, they have these, instead of garage sales, they have boot sales, and they sell stuff out of their boots. So that's not quite what I'm doing today, but I've got some neat cameras in the boot. So I featured the Ansco automatic reflex from the 40s. As you can see, the automatic reflex is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, and certainly has a very unique, construction and mechanism. And highly recommend, I'm not going to go reviewing it again, checking it out, but it's a great addition to that camera. And of course, yeah, twin lens reflex cameras were my ability to collecting Minolta, Voigtlander, and Ansco with twin lens reflex cameras. I was able to sort of match them up across 3 decades, so that's pretty cool. This is the Voigtlander Superb from the 1930s. Again, jump back to the video where I review this in detail, as well as the other video where I feature the 1930s cameras. But 3 very different cameras, unlike the plethora of other twin lens reflex cameras which mainly copied Rolleiflex. The Superb was a design of its own, as was the Ansco automatic reflex. And now, adding this, it makes a great set and completes my collection. So anyway, that's why I've picked this.